Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai. Om Satyam Param Dhimai.
Feel the breath as it moves in and out. Sense the breath merging with the blood and moving throughout the body. The sensitivity of the whole body. Relax the body. Start with the head. Make a conscious effort to relax the body. The forehead, the eyes, around the eyes, the ears, nose, two cheeks, the two lips, the tongue, the teeth, the gums, the chin, release the jawbone, the neck, two shoulders, the two hands, the back, chest, stomach, the two legs. Feel the body deeply relaxed. It's totally relaxed. There's no movement in the body. It's totally empty. Just the going in and going out of air, the breath. In this empty space, feel your own presence, as if your presence is coming from a higher dimension and occupying the body. Feel the presence, I am, apropos Atma. Feel it. Feel the beauty of the presence, the upliftment of the presence. Just to be, not to be anything, just to be. Feel the breath, feel the presence. Try to divide your attention and feel both simultaneously. Feeling of breath, feeling of presence. Hold both together. Slowly the music will go down. Try to hold both the feeling of breath and the feeling of presence. Try to hold the presence throughout the talk for 1.25 hours. Slowly open. Breathing suggestion. Now, today we are going to talk about right knowledge. The next sutra is the 5 vrittis. They are pramad, viparyaya, vikalpa, nindra, smriti. Pramad, right knowledge. Viparyaya, incorrect deduction or wrong knowledge. Vikalpa, imagination or fancy. Nindra, sleep or passivity. Or smriteya, memory. These are the 5 modifications of the mind. Now, today we will look at pramad, right knowledge. Now, the next sutra, so I'll take 6 and 7 together. The next sutra says, Pratyaksh, Anuman, Agama, Pramani. These are the 3 forms of right knowledge. Pratyaksh, Aksh means eyes, Pratyaksh means in front of the eyes, or Aksh you can take as any of the sense organs, in front of the sense organs, direct perception, right? Anuman is inference, correct deduction, Anuman, and Agam, the normal translation, very difficult word to translate, the words of those who have realized, the words of, it is a written testimony, a kind of, which we take as a commandment, somebody who has realized the truth, we take it as Agam, what he says. These are the normal descriptions, in what you call translations. Now, before going into this, I just would like to touch a little bit upon cosmology. And I'm going to bring in 2 cosmologies. Today we'll talk about one I'll talk about much later. The first is the cosmology of the Gayatri Mantra. And it is all my Guru's teachings which he wrote down, he took this cosmology as a background for that. So I'm going to explain this on the board. Later on, I would also like to go into Gurdjieff's cosmology, which he calls the ray of creation. But maybe some other day we will talk about that. Now the Gayatri Mantra goes Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Jana, Om Tapa, Om Satyam. These are the 7 stages of the Gayatri Mantra. Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. Right? So, every Hindu should understand this cosmology. This is the basic cosmology behind the whole Hindu thought. So, we just try to have a look at what it means and try to understand it in a simple way. My Guru has written a whole big book on it, so it's... Now, my Guru says there are 2 circles. The first circle, he calls as creation. The second circle he calls as existence. This circle has three universes. Bhuva, Swaha. The physical or cellular universe, or cellular. Next is the molecular or astral. And the last is electronic or mental. Bhuva, Swaha, cellular, molecular, electronic. These three universes. This he calls as existence. Existence. Right. These are surrounded by a kind of Lakshman Rekha. They are surrounded by a circle. In his book Meetings with Remarkable Men, Gurdjieff talks about his childhood, and there he says that he was born in the somewhere in the Central Caucasus, Armenia or Azerbaijan, somewhere there, maybe in Armenia, and there was a nomadic tribe called the Yezdis, and he used to play with these Yazdi boys, and they had a game where if you drew a circle around a boy, that boy, he could not come out of the circle till somebody broke the circle. Right? He would have to remain in that circle. Now this was some conditioning in that tribe, in that thing. If somebody drew a circle around you, you could not come out of the circle. Similarly, this is existence. It is surrounded by some form of very, very subtle matter, which he calls as Maha. So this is surrounded by some kind of subtle substance called Maha. Maha means huge, massive. The full name is Mahakaal, the big time, the big time. Now, to move from this existence, you go to something called creation. Now, what is creation made of? So, creation also has three levels. This is called as Jana. This is called as Tapa. This is called as Satyam. I mean, if you're saying the Gayatri Mantra, this is the background to the Gayatri Mantra. Unless we've understood this, we don't know what we are saying. Right? So, now we'll start from here. Satyam means the absolute. Paramatma, divine wholeness, unmanifest, there is no way we can imagine what this means. It is just unimaginable, vast emptiness full of the highest form of vibration, which even if we cannot even conceive of, which we cannot even imagine of, because there is nothing there, there is no instrument through which we can imagine what it means. It is unmanifest divine wholeness, the Paramatma, but avyakta Paramatma, not the vyakta Paramatma. So, that is called as Satyam. Now again, within Satyam, my Guru has gone in and made different stages, but I am not going to go into that. Right? Now, the second is the Vyakta Paramatma, the manifest divine wholeness. Tapa. The manifest, Vyakta Paramatma. Avyakta, Vyakta. A few days before he was going to leave, my Guru, he called me and he said, "What is the ultimate key?" So I said that, "Sir, Omkar is the ultimate." He says, "You're wrong. You're wrong. Tapa. Tapa. The ultimate key to open the lock. And that is the mantra Ram. The mantra Ram. Right? Ram means Tapa. Ram means Tapa. Tapa means suffering. Not suffering as we see it. Conscious suffering. Here, see, something very, very deep is implied over here. Very, very deep is implied over here. And it's implied that supreme consciousness, which we call as Paramatma, the divine wholeness, in giving rise to this existence, to moving into this, what you call, this process of creation, going into this process, there is a kind of suffering involved. There is a kind of suffering involved. Like when a mother is giving birth to a child, when that Paramatma is giving birth, that is why we call that process of giving birth as Gayatri. That process of giving birth. So there is a process in that. So there is, even though there is joy in creation, there is a suffering. There is a suffering. And that suffering from the avyakta Paramatma, he was unmanifest, he became manifest to give rise to creation. And to give rise to creation, there is a suffering involved, and that is why this is called as Tapa. Tapa means heat. Tapa means friction. Tapa means austerity. As long as we have personal suffering, as long as we have personal suffering, we can never identify with this suffering, the conscious suffering, the suffering of the divine, right? And which is every moment. But we have our personal sufferings. My tea was cold in the morning, right? So I have my personal suffering. Right? And as long as there is any kind of personal suffering, we can never identify with this Tapa, the divine suffering. And the joy of samadhi, the joy of enlightenment comes with with taking part of the suffering of the whole. I don't know if I'm coming across in this. So the very joy of enlightenment, of being free of the three worlds, in that you take on a part of the divine suffering. So there is joy and suffering moving together, but not the suffering as we see it. Something happened to my son, this person I loved died, etc., etc. I fell ill, I got this. These are all our personal sufferings. And we cannot understand what this is till we are free of those personal sufferings. So, this divine wholeness, the unmanifest, it wanted to manifest why is a wrong question. You're not allowed to ask, because people used to go to Buddha, right, and they would ask this question and Buddha would say, wrong question. These questions, before you come, these questions are not allowed to be asked. And the question why is not allowed to be asked. Right? But somewhere, if somebody asks me, I'll say he got indigestion. Right? So, that unmanifest became the manifest. Now, why is suffering so close to God? Why is suffering so close? Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Because in that suffering we are partaking of something from, let it be our personal suffering. We are mechanical in that personal suffering. We don't know. But in that personal suffering, the roots of that personal suffering come from here. And that is why in suffering, if we can make use of suffering in the right way, move from involuntary suffering to voluntary suffering and voluntary suffering to conscious suffering, then we can understand what the divine wholeness is, Paramatma, not Atma, Paramatma. We can realize that, right? Now, this was divine wholeness, and then it became Jana. Jana is divine fragment. Atma, the spirit. Yes.
Is the divine suffering like when you are meditating and you don't eat for a couple of days or you don't speak for, is that divine suffering?
The divine suffering is ecstatic. There is deep ecstasy in the divine suffering.
The ecstasy is a result of the divine suffering.
It's deep ecstasy. Like the ecstasy you felt when you were becoming a mother. So that is a small, trailer of that suffering. So, and that is why I'm getting back, pushed on with this thing, but see, the male does not know this secret. What? The male, marriage is the male learns this secret from the female. Because this deep secret of existence, of how to give birth, the male does not know that secret. And the whole idea of marriage is that the male understands this secret. And she understands something which is not in her, which is in the male. They exchange secrets. They exchange secrets. That is the whole idea of marriage. So, he wants to learn what it is to give birth. How the Paramatma gave birth to the Atma. Can you understand what we are talking about? We are talking of something on a different scale altogether. Right? How the Paramatma gave birth to the Atma. And don't think that this is something which happened in time, because again when we think of time, we are thinking of before and after. It is every moment. Every moment. This suffering is now. The suffering is now. And Gurdjieff used to call this the suffering of the absolute. The suffering of the absolute. Now, from this tapa, there became many atmas, divine fragments. Right? Now, Jana. The meaning of the word Jana means to give birth. To give birth. Where can we relate with that energy of Jana? See, suffering relates us to the energy of Tapa. What will relate us to the energy of Jana? To give birth, to create, creation. What will relate us to that energy in life? Creativity. Creativity. When I am creating anything, the energy is coming from Jana. It could be anything. It could be a canvas painting. Right? If I'm writing these notes, am I doing it as a baggage that I have to give a lecture in the evening, or am I doing it with a inner attitude of creativity? Can you see? It is doing the same thing. Right? So we do the mundane chores of life. I may be going to my job. I may be doing so many things in life. But if I can bring the energy of creativity to every small thing I do, then I'm getting this energy from a very, very high source. It could be just gardening, cutting some leaves or whatever. But am I doing it with the attitude of creativity? Right? So then I connect with this. Now, from here, okay, one more thing, I'll just. Now, in this movement, just take this as a fall in vibration. Fall in vibration. So, the unmanifest divine wholeness is highest vibration. Then manifest divine wholeness, little fall in vibration. And then comes divine fragment. The vibrations have fallen further. Vibrations have fallen further. Now, in this movement from Tapa to Jana, in this movement, two byproducts are created. Two byproducts. The first is what we call as Chitti, universal mind. Prana, the matter of the universe. What matter built the universe? What was the matter through which the whole universe was built? Where did that matter come from? Right? So there was a movement from Tapa to Jana, from divine wholeness to divine fragment, Paramatma to Atma, and that movement of vibrations was the drop was so big from wholeness to fragment. The drop was so big that two byproducts came out of that. Two byproducts. The first was Chitti. This Chitti, it immediately replicated this. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? This material which came out, it immediately formed a mirror image of this. It replicated, duplicated this. Right? And it duplicated as Swaha, Bhuva, Bhu. This whole existence is made out of this substance called Chitti, the universal mind. Another name we can call it is Prana. Prana. But the word in the Yoga Sutra used, the final sutra, is Chitti Shakti Iti. Am I coming across in this? Just please ask questions, because this cosmology will become more, it is the background of the whole Hindu thought.
Gujarati માં સમજાવવાનું ગુજરાતી માં સમજાવવાનું.
I quickly ask a question.
Yeah.
So when Tapa was coming into Jana and the fragments were becoming smaller, was it necessary to have byproducts? Who determines that? Why was there?
That is what I'm saying. This is the cosmology. This is the bag. You have to take this as Like an astronomer will come and say the earth goes round the sun. This is the cosmology of the solar system. You understand? Right?
It's also given that the universal mind will duplicate that.
Yes. Immediately the universal mind duplicated this. It formed what we call as our universe, or the many universes called Bhuva, Swaha. That is Swaha duplicated, Satyam. Bhuva duplicated, Tapa. And Bhu duplicated, Jana. Right? Okay, I'll go into Gujarati now. આખું ગાયત્રી મંત્રની પાછળ એક કોસ્મોલોજી છે કે આ કઈ રીતે ઉત્પન્ન થયું. જે ઓરિજિનલ ગાયત્રી મંત્ર છે, ઓમ ભૂ, ઓમ ભુવ, ઓમ સ્વહ, ઓમ મહા, ઓમ જન, ઓમ તપ, ઓમ સત્યમ. અને 7 લોક કહેવાય આપણે ત્યાં, 7 લોક કહેવાય. રાઈટ? હવે આને 2 ભાગમાં મારા ગુરુએ વેચી દીધા. એક સર્કલ ના 3 ભાગ, એક સર્કલમાં 3 ભાગ ને વચ્ચે મહા. 3 here, in between મહા. 2 ભાગમાં વેચી દીધા. પહેલો છે સત્યમ, ઓમ સત્યમ. સત્યમ એટલે પરમાત્મા, પણ અવ્યક્ત પરમાત્મા. હવે એ પરમાત્મામાંથી વ્યક્ત પરમાત્મા આવ્યું. એ વ્યક્ત પરમાત્મા એટલે તપ. વ્યક્ત પરમાત્મા. અને વ્યક્ત પરમાત્મામાંથી આત્મા આવ્યું, જન. આને ક્રિએશન એ કહેતા. હવે આ આત્મા આમાં આવે છે. શેની અંદર આવે છે? એક્ઝિસ્ટન્સની અંદર. હવે આ તપમાં પરમાત્મામાંથી આત્મા બન્યું તો 2 બાય પ્રોડક્ટ નીકળ્યા. 2 બાય પ્રોડક્ટની ગુજરાતીમાં શું કહેશું ખબર નહીં, પણ રાઈટ. અને એક હતું ચિત્તી, મન, જેને આપણે મન, બાય પ્રોડક્ટ માઇન્ડ, બટ યુનિવર્સલ માઇન્ડ, નોટ ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ માઇન્ડ, યુનિવર્સલ માઇન્ડ. આખી આપણી સૃષ્ટિ જે છે ભૂ ભુવ સ્વહ, આ પદાર્થમાંથી બનેલું છે. ચિત્તી, આ પદાર્થમાંથી બનેલું છે ચિત્તી. રાઈટ? એ પદાર્થ જેવું એ બહાર નીકળ્યું, એ આ 3નું એને ડ્યુપ્લિકેશન કર્યું. સત્યમનું ડ્યુપ્લિકેશન હતું સ્વહ, તપનું ડ્યુપ્લિકેશન હતું ભુવ, અને જનનું ડ્યુપ્લિકેશન હતું ભૂ. રાઈટ? હવે અહીંથી આત્મા અંદર આવે છે, પણ અંદર આત્મા આવે તો એ એમને ન રહી શકે, એને કપડાં પહેરવા પડે. જેમ અહીંથી આપણો એસ્ટ્રોનોટ સ્પેસમાં જાય તો એને સ્પેસ સૂટ પહેરવું પડે. આ જે કપડાં પહેરવા પડે એને આપણે નામ આપ્યું એસેન્સ. જૂના જમાનામાં જે થિયોસોફિકલ સોસાયટી હતું એને નામ આપ્યું હતું એસ્ટ્રલ બોડી, સૂક્ષ્મ શરીર, astral body. Now from here the divine fragment wants to enter into existence. It is not allowed into existence just like that. It has to wear clothes, a space suit. That space suit which it wears is made of the planets, graholu. It is made of the planets. We called it as essence. We have introduced a new word this time, essence. Right? The old theosophists called it as astral body. We can call it as Jeev, the soul. So before this it was the spirit, but when it comes in, it becomes the soul. It becomes the soul. Now the soul is journeying. I don't want to go into that because it's a very complicated thing. Right? What I am trying to say that it comes down and it goes back up, and when it wants to escape out, it has to escape out of something called Maha. Mahakaal, the big time. What is this whole cloud surrounding the three worlds? Mahakaal. So my guru used to say, one thing in the whole, all the universes is indestructible, and that is memory. Memory can never be destroyed. In the Mahabharata, memory is represented by Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama cannot be killed. Right? When Arjun wants to kill Ashwatthama, Krishna says, you cannot kill him. I can take the money from his forehead, and Yudhishthir will wear that money, but he will be doomed to roam the earth till the earth is there forever and ever. He is a Chiranjeevi. So in the Mahabharata, this memory is represented by Ashwatthama. Right? Mahakaal. Today we are going to talk about knowledge. That is why I wanted to bring in this cosmology a little. So when I was asking him that what does this Mahakaal mean? What does it mean? So he says, all knowledge is stored there in deep freeze forever and ever. He says, we talk about Krishna coming and Ram coming, but if you can enter into Mahakaal, Krishna has come so many times and Ram has also come so many times. So, our knowledge comes from books. Our knowledge comes from all sorts of outside things. But within us are these 7 lobes. And if we can connect to something called Mahakaal, then knowledge flows in automatically. If we can connect to that. That is why I wanted to just bring in this cosmology a little bit for us.
Is this the same as Akashic Records? I've read somewhere. Is that
Akashic Records is a term used by Madame Blavatsky. And Madame Blavatsky, William Judge and Colonel Olcott, in around the 1870s somewhere, I can't give you the exact time, they created something called the Theosophical Society, the Universal Brotherhood of Religions. Right? And it was, I think, the first step which a person took, an individual took to be free of religion and take just the word spirituality without any coloring of any religion. Because religions have created divisions, they're more like viruses. So, religions have created divisions. Can there be spirituality free of religion? Right? And she took this great step, Madame Blavatsky, and she wrote a couple of beautiful books. One was The Secret Doctrine, and one was Isis Unveiled, and in which the Secret Doctrine, she talks about this area, the Mahakaal, where she calls all the Akashic records are preserved there. And many great souls came out of the Theosophical movement. There was Alice Bailey, and Alice Bailey has written a number of excellent books. Many others were there. I mean, this translation which we are using for the Yoga Sutras is from Light on the Soul by Alice Bailey. The translation which we are putting in English. It is her work, Alice Bailey's Light on the Soul. And the ones which I many times quote are not Alice Bailey, but by another theosophist, William Judge. So these 3 people, Madame Blavatsky, William Judge and Colonel Olcott, they formed the Theosophical Society. They started using those words, Akashic records. So you can say it's the same thing, Mahakaal. So all knowledge available to man is preserved for eternity and eternity in this area between this and this, right? And that knowledge can be, you can connect to that knowledge can flow through you. Of course, when it flows through you, it will flow through your own language, your own sanskar, your own memory patterns. Now, which question is not asked? Which question have you all forgotten to ask?
This one.
No, about this. Which question have you forgotten?
Yeah, I'm asking. There's a second, the second.
The second byproduct.
Yeah.
The second byproduct, Omkar. You see, in that divine wholeness becoming divine fragment, two things came out: a substance called Chitti and a sound called Omkar. A sound called Omkar. So we have actually two theories of how Bhuva Swaha was made, how this universe. One says it was made out of Chitti, the other says it was made out of sound. The other says it was made out of sound, right? The fourth Bible by John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word was God. Right? So, the other thing was Omkar. And both the theories are absolutely correct. Right? You look at it from this way, it is mind. You look at it from this way, it is sound. Whichever way. These are two aspects of the same thing.
So, the intention is really to escape the.
Yes.
Yeah. That.
Sit down, I think. Yeah.
Escape in Mahakaal.
Yeah. Escape through Mahakaal. Yeah.
So when that happens, the knowledge base disappears, right? Because then only an existence remains.
So what would it mean? What would it mean? Just tell me, in normal terms, in everyday life, what would it mean? Supposing I want to start today, forget about this cosmology. Forget about this. But we are thinking of Mahakaal, that we know that tomorrow this thing is going to be a Lakshman Rekha to us. Right? And we have to overcome it. So what would it mean? What would it mean? In our normal daily living, how will we start working from now? Of course, we will bring in consciousness, that is the first step, but how will we start working? It's the big time, it is also the big memory. Okay, so now how will we start working? In our normal relationships, how will we start working? But we get carried away by associations. By associations. Right? Now, how do associations work in our daily living?
So why we react? It's the way we react, perhaps, to react in a better way, in the right way. It's like reaction to events like
associations.
It's preset.
It's preset. Now we are trying to make ourselves free of those associations. And I'm just talking about very normal. What he's saying is right, but I want to break it down right to very normal, very ordinary level. Supposing you are wearing a purple pullover. And you say, when I went to buy this pullover, I met him in the shop. Right? Now, what happened? What do I say?
Like pause and think about the decision.
No, in my normal mechanical way, what do I say? I'll say that, oh, I've been looking for him for so many days. Or I have this important work with, I've forgotten about your pullover. You're talking about your? Where has this come from? Memory. Can you see in that very moment I become a slave of memory? Mahakaal. Can you see? I become a slave of memory. Mahakaal. Now the minute I'm aware of it, I say I don't want to say it now. I want to listen to your pullover. I block it. And I consciously detach myself from that, what do you call that, attack of memory which I got. And in that moment I'm free of that association. Understand what I'm trying to say? You may be talking about something totally different. You may be saying that, okay, this accident happened with me. Right? And the minute you say that, I'll say, oh, 6 months ago I was taking my car this way and I just missed a bus like this. Can you see? That you said something but I was immediately controlled by memory. Right? Can I pause there? I'll bring it into the conversation, but I'll bring it in now after a few minutes, consciously. Right? If I want to say it. Or if I feel something will come out of it in the conversation. If it is just mental vomiting, it is just verbal vomiting, then I don't want to say it. Right? But I have consciously freed myself from memory. See? So we keep making this effort to free ourselves from memory. You're talking on the phone with somebody, he says something and suddenly you go back into this association, immediately pause over there. If you have to say it after 30 seconds, after 1 minute. But in that moment, free yourself from the association. Because one day we are going to walk through, we'll have to free ourselves of the big time. And all this is a part of that big time. All this is a part of that big time. I have not talked yet about associations. There's a whole web network of associations within us.
Let me ask, this was a thought in the day, is what brings people together associated, like me sitting here or this whole group of people here together, or my chances of meeting a stranger, a beggar, what is that relationship? Is that preset? Is it, or is it just destiny, or is it perchance, or because of some of association? I was trying to understand that.
What has brought you here is your magnetic center has brought you here.
But the relationship with everybody and
what makes time? What makes time? What constitutes time? What is time? See, it's very difficult for us, no? Birth to death. Birth to death. It's a straight line. Of course, it's not a straight line, which Kanubhai yesterday corrected me. It's not a straight line, but if I say it in any other way, we will not understand it. We will not understand it. Right? So, it is a straight line. We see time as this straight line. And this is because of our way of perception. What gives rise to this perception? How do we make this perception of time? Why do we perceive time as moving from the past to the future? Time does not have to move in this way. But it is this idiot brain of ours which perceives time in this way. Supposing we say before this was an essence. Right? And this essence took on a body. But this essence was before, this essence was after. Now, if the body is talking to the essence, am I coming across? If the body, I was young and then I became middle-aged and now my hair is grey and I am old and I have so many children, the essence won't know what he's talking about. The essence does not understand this concept of time only. The essence understands time as something totally different. Can you get what I'm trying to say? Because our consciousness cannot attach to the essence, we think this is the only time, moving from the past to the future. Today I was going to talk about sensual thinking, but tomorrow I'll talk about sensual thinking and psychological thinking. Pratyaksh, sensual thinking, Anuman, psychological thinking. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But this is a typical outcome of our sensual thinking. See, we think with the five senses. We don't think with the mind. Truth is a bag of gold coins, out of which 3 gold coins have fallen out, and the senses see that and say this is the truth. And science makes a big thing about it. They will make small senses like a microscope or a telescope, just an extension of the senses, and this is the truth and this is the truth. But truth is in that bag of coins inside, and there is no way the 5 senses can see it. And this is all we are trying to do. We are stuck to this way of thinking, sensual thinking, and it becomes so pathological at times. We were in New Zealand, both of us, and somebody is talking about some bhajan mandali. Just imagine this, right? And he's talking about the bhajans and how ash was falling from the roof when they were doing the bhajans, and ash was falling from the ceilings. Now, can you think how we have degenerated? Truth has nothing to do with what you're seeing with your physical eyes. Whatever miracles you see, it has nothing to do with that. This is a result of our wrong thinking. Can you see what I'm trying to say? And this is happening all over India. All over India today. Spirituality has become a blank check.
What you're saying is that the ash is falling, but...
Whether it's falling or not, it has nothing to do with truth.
But it could be a miracle, but it doesn't have to be the truth.
If that is a miracle, then any magician can perform a miracle. If that is a miracle. Ash falling out of some photo and ash falling out of some, wall or something of that sort.
So is there no such thing as miracle?
What?
So is there no such a thing as miracle?
It has nothing to do with a miracle. It's a pathological
No,
imbalance.
I'm just saying the concept of miracle.
Huh?
No, I'm asking, I'm not talking about the ash. I'm just saying miracle in general, like the concept of miracle.
See, there is a world of subtle vibration. Yeah, and something happens over there which we cannot see in this world. And if that could be shown in this world, it would be a miracle.
Okay, so miracle is
But it's not a miracle. Somebody who can see in that world of vibrations knows it is not a miracle. But somebody who only knows how to see with the physical eye will say it is a miracle. And truth is the most simple thing. It has nothing to do with miracles. You understand what I'm trying to say? Truth cannot be conveyed, so sometimes it uses the language of miracles. Christ said that at the marriage of Cana, the water became wine. Right? Now they're talking about something else, talking about something totally different. 7 miracles which Christ performed. The first one was the marriage at Cana. Right? It's talking of the Christ. If you follow Christ, the lower will become the higher. The lower is water, the higher is wine. It's a metaphorical way of putting something. But everybody is looking for physical miracles with their sensual thinking, and truth has nothing to do with sensual thinking. You have to think in a different way. So if you're just looking at sensual thinking, that this was birth and this was death, then you will see time only in this way. You will never be able to go into that bag of gold coins and see a different way of seeing time. Am I? See, we use the word eternity. If you ask anybody, they'll say eternity means infinite extension of time. This line keeps on going on forever and ever. But if you knew the true meaning of the word eternity, you wouldn't ask this question. You would know why people meet. You understand what I'm trying to say? Some intellectual understanding of the word eternity as another dimension of time. Not as this time running forever and ever. Which movie was that? The Immortal, or which one was it? I don't remember. It goes on forever and ever. Just man's unfulfilled desires he puts in a movie. He wants to live forever. And he doesn't realize that he'll keep on doing the same things forever and ever. Right? So, this essence lives in something called eternity. Eternity. Now, let's again come back to daily living, because unless we bring these concepts to our daily living, it's going to be very difficult to understand.
But you know, Rajendra, I've seen honey come out of a worm right there in Durban. I was also lost. I've seen it.
Sir, I have seen ash flowing out of the third eye. I've seen kampu flowing out of the third eye. It has nothing to do with spirituality. That is what I'm trying to say. Some laws are operating on a subtle level, which we think of miracles in this level, just because they are coming here. It is an imbalance.
So that shouldn't happen.
Should? It has nothing to do with the truth.
But that happens, that means there's an imbalance.
It's an imbalance. And that person I knew, every day I used to sit next to him. And he had to wear a scarf so nobody could see. If he had taken out the scarf, he would have been a big guru. People singing bhajans to him and all kinds of things.
By seeing miracles, it doesn't changes you from low to higher. Whereas when you see the truth, it changes you from the lower to the higher. There's a big difference.
Truth is simple, the most simple thing. It has nothing to do with miracles. Christ was talking to he was talking to fishermen, he was talking to shepherds. The intellectual Jews, the only intellectual who followed him was Judas. So, it was a different language he had to talk to them. So, I've seen it all. I've seen cancer being cured. I've seen so many things. But it has nothing to do with the truth. It comes back to man's desire to fulfill his unfulfilled desires. That I am ill, can somebody cure me? It's not, I am ill, let me learn the mystery of death. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Now, this is a person who wants to know truth. Otherwise, you're just trying to extend this line into forever and forever. Right? Give me some more vitamins, give me some more this, give me some. You need a different kind of thinking, So if you can understand this term eternity, you will suddenly know why we have come together. But we cannot understand this term eternity. Now I can only show it in a geometrical way. I can't do some miracle and show it to you. I can show it to you in geometry. How does Euclidean geometry start? We learned geometry in school, and geometry was, the creator of geometry was a Greek called Euclid. And how does he start his geometry? What is the first line in Euclid's geometry? Suppose there is a point. Can you see? It all starts with suppose. It all starts with suppose. Right? So this is how geometry starts. Suppose there is a point. Right? If the point moves, it becomes a line. Right? If the line moves, it becomes a plane. And if the plane moves, it becomes a cube. It becomes a cube. Right? This is Euclidean geometry. Euclidean geometry. Suppose there is a point. If the point moves, it becomes a line. If the line moves, it becomes a plane. And if the plane moves, it becomes a cube. Length, breadth and thickness. Right? In all schools we learn this. First lesson of geometry, class 6 or whatever, I don't remember. Right? Okay. Now, this is the three-dimensional world which we see with our 5 senses. This is the three-dimensional world. All our thinking is based on this three-dimensional world. Even though God is a concept inside, when we talk about God, we'll again talk about miracles because we have to see something with our eyes. We have to see something with our eyes. We are so attached to this way of thinking, this three-dimensional universe. Now we have something inside called a mind. The mind is not limited by this three-dimensional world. Okay, now we said birth to death is a line of time. Birth to death is a line of time. What did Euclid say? Suppose there is a point and the point moves, it becomes a line. Let's take the same thing what he was talking about for space. Let us put the same projection onto time. Okay, now how is this line formed? Which points go to make this line? How does the mind conceive time? How does the mind make time? No, birth and death, okay. But what is it? What is happening with the 5 senses and the mind? What is happening? How does this line of time come?
Changes.
Events. Every moment. What is a present moment? What is a moment? Don't go by the arbitrary division of time, seconds and hours and minutes. Don't go by, that is an arbitrary division of time. How? There has to be an inner sensitivity, there has to be an inner registration, and that has to be the present moment. Now you understand what I'm trying to say? Something has to register inside. That will be the present moment. Supposing in terms of photography, we call it as a frame. What is the present moment? It is one frame. The shutter opened, the shutter closed. Right? And one frame was captured. The photographer says one frame was captured. Right? And now they have these fast speed cameras where in 1 minute they are capturing so many frames. Right? The shutter opens, shutter closes. Sorry. Take the camera as the 5 senses. The 5 senses. They are opening, life is coming in, something is registering inside. That moment of registration is the present moment. The moment of registration is the present moment. It is one photograph. One photograph. I was born, one photograph. The 5 senses took in. One inner registration of some experience at that moment of screaming when I was born, moment of crying when I was born. I hope you've heard, there's one therapy called primal therapy. Have you heard of it? It was started by someone called Arthur Janov. And Janov would make his patients go back till they remembered the first scream they had, they cried when they came out of their mother's womb. Yes. And he called this as primal therapy. It's a very old therapy. And Janov made his patients, and people who were in wheelchairs for 20 years, in that scream, suddenly all their diseases went away. They would get up and start walking. Right? Arthur Janov. So, that first scream is the first dot in this line of time of ours. And then dots keep on, because every moment the senses are taking photographs. The senses can never go out of the present moment. They are always in the present moment. I cannot taste an apple yesterday. I can only taste an apple now. You getting this?
But you can remember the taste of the apple yesterday.
That is the mind, not the senses. The mind, not the senses. Right? You can't take your eyes into yesterday. You can remember yesterday. You get what I'm trying to say? So the senses are taking this photograph. The mind collects these dots and makes the line of time from birth to death. This is how we make our line of time. This is our sensual time, result of our sensual thinking. Psychological thinking is something totally different. Can you see? We may be sitting at the same table together, right? Eating next to each other. But you're thinking of your trip to America, and I'm thinking of what's happening on my farm in India. So, in physical space we are together, but in psychological space we are at two ends of the world. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? So, the mind is not bound by the present moment. It is not bound by three-dimensional space. In the mind, nearness and distance means something totally different. Right? I may be in love with someone. She may be very, very far away. But because of that love, she is psychologically very close. Can you see what I'm trying to say? So in the three-dimensional world she is very far, but in the psychological world she is very close. So what we relate to closeness and nearness and farness as the senses does not make, in the mind it is totally different. So the mind, you can see that the mind penetrates some other dimension of time which the senses cannot. And this is not a fact for science. You get it? And that is why it is the mind which connects the body to essence. The mind can be with the body in the present moment, and it can be with the essence in eternity, the other time. Now am I coming across what I am trying to say?
That's the reason mind can have a glimpse of God.
The mind can become still and reflect God also, because God is the essence. In the essence is God. Right? So mind is the connection. It can live in this time, it can live in that time. Only we don't make use of it. We are so attached to this time that we forget everything else, and we make God a concept also of this time. I'm going to talk on these two times tomorrow. Psychological space, physical space. It's totally different things. Right? Now just use your imagination. Supposing this line of time, which we call birth to death, were to travel, what would it form? What would it form? It would form the plane of time. And the plane of time would contain many lines of time. The plane of time would contain many lines of time. Just as one line here, you extend it, it becomes a plane, it becomes this floor. Similarly, the line of time which we call as birth to death, if it was to move in Euclidean geometry, it would become what would that mean? Can you now get a concept of essence? A concept of essence. What essence means? Essence means all our experiences. All these lines of time together means essence. I don't know if I'm getting across into this. Can you see what I'm trying to say? So, in this moment, I am the body, the part of this time moving from here to here, but I am also an essence. And essence is all my time put together, all my experience, and that is penetrating each moment of this time. And the connection between the body and that essence is the mind. Now you get what I'm trying to say. The mind can move in this time, the mind can move in that time.
How do we move in this time? How do we become aware of moving?
So from sensual thinking you move to something called psychological thinking. You see, the whole Mahabharata is in psychological thinking. We take it as a drama in sensual thinking. Jesus was talking in psychological thinking, all the parables, but we all take it in sensual thinking. Definitely Lazarus must have got up from his grave. Now, what difference did it make whether Jesus would make one man, dead man living? It made no difference. Definitely, he must have been talking about something totally different. You understand what I'm trying to say? He's trying to connect you between here to something totally different. I'm not talking about the cube of time, otherwise we'll go mad. But if there is a cube of time, it would be God, the Absolute, where everybody's experiences all together would lie in that cube of time. Now can you see this? That my essence contains all these lines. They may be innumerable. That is what we mean by eternity. Can you see how our eternities are meeting, even though physically we cannot see it? Your line and my line is crossing.
It doesn't necessarily mean if Malami is here, that means I could have met her in another timeline, but I just don't know.
The essence have crossed in some time. It is not, we cannot see this. We cannot see this. The circle always goes round. the son becomes the father becomes the son. I think the first year I was here, I took Shakuntala. I don't know, did I take Shakuntala?
Yes.
Yes. Is this clear? I'll sit down.
Does it mean that your parents, and in that familial environment of your mother, your father, your brother, your sisters, will you in other timelines be in the same family, mother, father, brother, sister, or which?
You're going to make me get up only. Well, we go before birth and after death. The essence was before birth and after death. Sharmila was after birth and before death. Now, how are you relating the two? When you are talking about your mother, you are not talking about essence. Whatever her name was, I don't know her name. You understand what I'm trying to say? Or whatever name is, I don't know, sorry. Right? But you are not talking about essence. You see, we cannot grasp this concept only. Supposing I am talking about my mother or my father, his name was Arvind, so I am talking about him, but he is gone. He is an essence. An essence is a planetary combination. You get what I am trying to say? So you are going to attract a similar planetary combination, which will always be the same. Because we can do nothing but repeat the same. Unless the level of being changes, the essence changes, and it attracts a different planetary combination. You get what I am trying to say? So, the only way you can name the essence is its planetary combination, and within that combination there will be a spectrum. And that spectrum, a lot of it will, which end of the spectrum you are in, a lot of it will depend upon which thought you died with. Can you understand what I am trying to say? You are not going to go out of this spectrum. You are going to attract a certain planetary type, a certain planetary condition, which is similar to this condition. But within that condition, there is a higher spectrum, and it can be a little on this side, a little on this side. What was I thinking of when I died? Am I coming across? To ask psychiatrists. I don't think there's anyone in the room to ask a psychiatrist, but he'll say when a man cannot sleep in the night, if he thinks about sex, he goes to sleep. Right? You ask any psychiatrist, they'll say that if a man cannot sleep in the night, he thinks a little bit about sex and he goes to sleep. Sex is like a drug. Right? It's like a glass of wine. And he goes to sleep. Now, supposing I'm not in the right frame at the moment of death. I'm in a negative frame. I'm not relaxed. And some negative thoughts are coming to me, which are disturbing me. Yeah? Maybe today you insulted me, and at night when I go to sleep, I'm remembering that insult. Right? And it's disturbing me. I can't go to sleep. So obviously I think about sex and I go to sleep. Right? Now, say that is happening 100 times more intense. I'm going to die now. And suddenly I remember the insult. Not that insult, but something like that. And it's happening to me 100 times more. And if the last thought is of sex, can you see the carry forward? Then I'm going to go into that end of the spectrum. But if the last thought is of something divine, if I'm doing the Gayatri or something, doesn't matter, I'm mechanical. But in the spectrum which I'm going to get, I'm going to go into the upper end of the spectrum. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So my time is up, but I'll just end with one small story. There was this Zen monastery. And one of the disciples, it was his duty to ring the bell when the period was over, or it was time for lunch or time for prayers. He had to ring the bell. Now one day he was ringing the bell, and the guru came behind him and gave him a big whack with a bamboo, and he died. He died, and that guru was everywhere he was criticized that he killed one of his disciples. Later on, the guru of course left, and 10 of his disciples achieved the truth, which was a very big number for one Zen guru. Usually 1 or 2 disciples get it and he passes on the coat and that goes on. That was a big number. And then people realized it was because he hit that person on the head. Now, can we see this in another way? Can we see this in another way? Which other way could we see it in light of what we've talked about? That supposing it was his moment of death, that disciple who was pulling the bell, he was daydreaming in that moment. He maybe was thinking of sex or something, daydreaming, and he's ringing the bell, and the guru sees that death is hovering over him, and if he dies in this state, then this will be the result. So he gives him a big whack, and he suddenly becomes conscious, and he dies. Now the outward senses, our sensual thinking is the guru killed someone. This is the sensual thinking. But the psychological thinking, the guru put him on the right path. So, anyway, I'll stop over here. Thank you. Jai Shri Krishna. Good night.